Now, Barrister, before you walk in, we're looking at the judgment, that Justice James Omotosho delivered on the case. We have, I think, 5 people from River State going to Federal High Court to challenge the legality of the suspension of the governor of River State, Similai Fubara, and the House of Representative members. Please help us, tell us what you make of that particular judgment as a legal practitioner. Let's also understand more. Because some persons were saying that there's never a way the court will rule against the president, and people are not expecting something different. Let us walk around this place.
You see, the first thing I have to say quickly on this is that many Nigerians, especially the legal scholars, they forget that there is a precedent set by the Supreme Court on this particular proclamation of emergency, where OBJ, as at that time, had to suspend Joe Shadari and members of the Plateau House of Assembly. Whether rightly or wrongly, people went to court. The Supreme Court made a pronouncement, which is still binding. No, they had not said it. They had not even, upturned that, as the case may be. And what the Supreme Court said was that, number one, in that particular case, was that those who came, this issue of Locus standi, was the bane, was the fulcrum on which that particular whatever arrested. What the AG did in this Belema case is the same thing the AG did as at that time, by throwing what we call a preliminary objection to the suit that was filed by those people. The Supreme Court said that, look, you people are not members of the House of Assembly, and you are not the governor of a Plateau State that was suspended. So you do not have, or you lack that Locus standard for you to come. That the only person or people that would have had that Locus standard are members of the House of Assembly or the governor himself. If the governor had gone there to challenge, maybe they will have a space to talk about it. On jurisdiction, the Supreme Court also said that they have that jurisdiction exclusive to other courts, which this particular judgment also reiterated. Now, the issue of Locus standard is that in the Iweala's case versus Fawayemi, the Supreme Court said that it's not just you for public interest lawyers and those public interest litigants, that you have to prove more. You don't just say because you are a Rivers man, for instance, that the emergency declared by Tinubu has affected me. That you have to prove more, that it affected you substantially. You understand, before you can have that locus for you to challenge, this particular, proclamation, as the case may be. Then you now go back to the issue, raised in this particular judgment. One is that, there are four issues on which this judgment rested. The first one was on the issue of jurisdiction. The second one was the issue of a locus. The third one was whether the president acted legally or otherwise. Then the other one was removing the governor. And the court now said, just like the Supreme Court said in that particular case, that the governor was not removed. The members of the House of Assembly, they were not removed. That they were only suspended. You understand the point now? So these issues has come again. And I said this a long time ago. When this people went to court, I said they have the right, because let us see if we can expand the law. Whether the Supreme Court, will direct itself and see what is going to happen. I predicted that this particular suit is going to be like a fiat accompli. And that is what has happened. So there's nothing new for those of us who are aware. The only issue that I find difficult to, decipher here is the issue of the legality and the readings and the couching of Section 305, which talks about that the president can, make a proclamation. Now, there's a nagging question under that Section 305, which has not been resolved. And the only people that can resolve this is the National Assembly. And that if immature lies with them. What am I talking about? The president can make a proclamation that is otherwise. Where this problem comes from is that insofar as the president makes that proclamation to declare a emergency in any particular state, he has to do some annotation, some notes in that declaration. What are those notes? What are those notes prescribed? the Constitution says he has to do those notes to the National Assembly. Till today, we don't know what those notes are.
Okay.
The same thing Obasanjo used. The same thing Tinubu now used, because he sent that notes to the National Assembly for them to now decide on. We are asking them that in their answer they should let us have that letter. What is contained, the gazette, what is contained in that president transmission.
Okay,
they have not done that. So these are issues that needs to be addressed. For this judgment, I think. Okay. I don't see anything wrong because he followed precedent.
Yes. Okay. And even as we interrogate these issues now, what my takeaway from your position now is that if the governor of Lagos State, where I live, or probably the governor of Abia State, where I come from, makes a law that affects me, I don't have the right to challenge.
That is what the judgment, this particular judgment is talking about. Not just this judgment. I am saying about some years ago, the Supreme Court made, a pronouncement. That is the highest court in the land. In those who are aware, I might, give the citation later after this, program. But it is a popular, a case, Iweala versus Gani Faweime. It was a similar thing on Locus standi. For those of us who are in the public interest, law, whatever the case may be, we find that very difficult for us to now accept. Okay. Why is that? For instance, now, that is why, you see, that is why we have said, that chapter 2 of the 1999 Constitution, that is why I cannot sue my governor now. To say that, look, my governor, you cannot provide security for me. There are killings in my state. People have died. And I go to court, I say, Mr. Judge, I want to declare that my governor has not done, good governance to us. Therefore, it's either he is impeached or he's removed. Or the third one is I have to do a pay compensation. You understand the point now? To the victims of those bandits, that ravaged my state. I cannot do that because the question is I have to go beyond being a citizen of those states. I have to prove that the killings or the atrocities that took place affected me substantially for me to now have that right to, what is called Locus standi, as the case may be. Finally, on this particular matter, let me say with due respect. You see, people are blaming the judge. I said, no, you don't need to blame Omotosho. Omotosho acted on a precedent. Assuming there is no precedent, Lord Denning has even said that the absence of precedent does not mean that there are no principles of laws to be followed by the judge. The other one is this. Lord Denning also went further to say that the judicature, the judiciary, especially the judges, can expand the law. They can even limit and narrow the scope of any particular law that is in place. So based on their interpretation, as the case may be, is the ambit on which the matter before them is adjudicated upon. So they have the right. So in this case again, highlighting everything, Locus standi, if we even gather in a class action like what happened here and say, okay, we are challenging this, it means that we have to prove more that state of emergency, that was declared in Rivers State, substantially affected us. And that is very difficult. A similar fulcrum on which electoral fortunes today rest. That is the moment you are sworn in as a governor of a state or president of Nigeria. Me that lost to you, I have to prove substantially that the elections were rigged. And if I prove that the elections were rigged, I will not go further to now prove that rigging substantially affected my victory or affected why I was not made or taken as the person that won that particular election. Right. So I have to do more than that. So it's something that is worrisome to all of us. We don't know exactly what and how we're going to do all this.
Is on the people to prove that, look, this affects me personally. More than
what is the general whatever. It is said here. It's if you want me, I can give the highlight. I did a quick one on this. He said Locus standi. That is, let me put it very succinctly. Okay. Look at it. He said that public interest must demonstrate a peculiar injury. Are you getting my point? Is that I want to show now the highlights? The bullet points from his judge that public interest litigants must demonstrate a peculiar injury beyond what is suffered by the general public. Which means
So
they have failed.
There's an admittance to...
That is it. Now let me tell you something. He said, in the essence of removing the governor, it is the same thing Supreme Court said. That is removing St. Kubara in Rivers State. Now look at what the judge said. He said that it is wise, or it was wise and congruent to suspend the governor, because, and the House of Assembly, because they couldn't have acted side by side with the sole administrator. That there would be chaos if the sole admin was there and the governor and the House of Assembly also on the other side. That is what the judgment is talking about. You go to the jurisdiction, that is another the point. Jurisdiction. He said that the Federal High Court does not have that jurisdiction. That's under anathema, to what is going to happen now, the questions that are bothering our minds. If the Federal High Court does not have jurisdiction, to entertain issues of, suspension of governor, suspension of the House of Assembly members, or anybody at all, that is only the Supreme Court. Where lies, the particular, section of the Constitution that says that Supreme Court can only listen, originating, emotions or whatever, come to them when it involves state government versus federal government versus state government, etc., as the case may be. The individuals cannot, on their own now, approach the Supreme Court directly without going through those particular lower courts, as the case may be. So it means that if I want to go to court now, I cannot go to Supreme Court directly, because they say in the procedural hierarchy, they have to start from the bottom, which is Federal High Court, Court of Appeal to Supreme Court. So that has been extinguished. It then means that if, for instance, a state of emergency is declared today in any of the states, for me to challenge or for us to challenge, we must have these conditions precedent before we can go ahead. You understand? So for me, I think it's something that is worrisome. But I am not worried, because I already know that this is where it was going to end. And it ended this way. There is nothing we can do about it. Lord Dennis has made it very succinctly put that, law, if I quote what Lord Dennis said about judges, please, I'm sorry. See, this is Lord Dennis speaking to all of us. He said, judges have the power to fill the necessary gaps in law. The role of the courts and judges is to do justice. But if there is any rule of law which impairs the doing of justice, then it is the province of the judge to do all he legitimately can do to avoid the rule of law or change being battered. What has happened today is that the judges have not followed what Lord Dennis has said. Because this particular judgment, in my own opinion, runs in grain against the rule of law. And it behoves on the judge to have gone far. If you ask me to prove beyond this that it affected me as generally, why can't the courts go beyond the law, beyond what is prescribed in the situation, and say, look, in the sake of good governance, in the sake of rule of law, I am going to make this pronouncement, even though it hurts the authority. They don't do that. Lord, when it admonished them to do that, you must go above it. Once you find out that there's going to be injustice, like what has been done here, what the judge would have done is to say, for the sake of justice, for the sake of rule of law, I know, Mr. President, you did this, but what you did was wrong. But let it be that you cannot suspend. Suspension removal is the same. If the man can stay for 6 months, it means you can even suspend for 1 year, which you can expunge that particular office by your own arbitrary whatever conduct, as the case may be.
Okay, thank you very much, Barrister Asim Adams. That's quite expository, and we do appreciate you for that. Now let's come back to the issue of rights group within the United States, asking that the issue of Nnamdi Kanu be looked at again. A few of them: Rising Sun, Advocates for Victims of Injustice and Discrimination, AVID, and also Ambassadors for Self-Determination. These are some of the rights groups based in the United States that are asking for a review of the case of Nnamdi Kanu. Let's go to Comrade Christopher Ojekere. Let me start off with you on this one. Do you think this makes any difference, really? As Nnamdi Kanu just the other day talked about how ill health is, how some illnesses are affecting him, and he feels like he's dying in custody. Do you think Nigerian government will listen to some of these rights groups, seeing that these are coming from the abroad? Do you think it will make any difference?
Well, it's a bit of a complicated issue in the sense that Nnamdi Kanu was pursuing a political agenda which was hurting the state and especially the region where he comes from, which is the southeast. However, Nnamdi Kanu has been kept in prison for longer than I think you have any law to sustain or justify. And that's why the right group went straight into what would be the solution. The solution would be that you now sit down on a round table with Nnamdi Kanu and maybe representative of the Southeast and extract some conditions that will now lead to peace and his release. I understand that there was a time he was going to be given a conditional release, and he rejected that. The truth of the matter is that all of the problems we have done with respect to ESN and so on and so forth in the Southeast, leading to loss of manpower by their, stay-at-home policy, and a lot of the killings that are going on in the forests were all initiated by his preachments against the Nigerian state. That itself has developed wings. So we cannot justify, I have never justified Nnamdi Kanu's, approach to seeking for liberation for Biafra or his people. However, you cannot correct an illegality by another illegality. He has been kept there for too long. It's not helping anybody. Nobody is going forward with the matter. Now, the only thing to do is to listen to the right groups. But as we know it in Nigeria, every president is apprehensive that if he is the president that will preside over releasing Nnamdi Kanu, he's going to take responsibility for what will happen thereafter. And that is why I said it should be a representation of people from Nnamdi Kanu extraction, that is the Southeast, who will sit down with the federal government and obtain conditions upon which Nnamdi Kanu should be released. I think the matter is long enough, and that suggestion is novel and noble.
All right, thank you so much, Comrade Christopher, for your submission. Let's get your opinion also on this particular one. Mr. Dambaki, if you can hear me. Do you think at this point in time, with the way this particular case have dragged thus far, that we're going to find maybe a lawful solution to, out of court to settle this particular case? Remember that over 50 lawmakers went to visit the president to talk about the release of Nnamdi Kanu. So many other prominent politicians have also chimed into this, and they are calling for his release and all that. Do you think we're going to see that happen? Remember that the indigenous people of Biafra, or the call for Biafra, the agitation, did not just start with Nnamdi Kanu. It's more like now an ideology that have lingered for so long. It was even what led to the war that Nigeria experienced, Biafra War of 1967 to 1970. Help us walk around this place.
Yes, I think that it's beyond just the release of Nnamdi Kanu. It's an ideology that must be addressed. Even if you release Nnamdi Kanu and you shut him up, there are other Nnamdi Kanus that will come up with the same issue on the table of our national discourse. I think the kinetic aspect of Biafran war has ended, but we have entered into the Cold War of it ever since the war ended. We are in a different phase that has never been addressed by the Nigerian that we live today. So I think is beyond just Kanu as an individual, and we need to disagree to agree. we need to disagree agreeably, if you want it. We as Nigerians, we have never negotiated our union. And I think that's what Nnamdi Kanu represents. It's not just the Biafra. It represents the gap in the formation of Nigeria that needs to be addressed. There are so many issues of marginalization that needs to be addressed. But for Nnamdi Kanu in particular, it is for me even a shame that someone far away from the US will have to call on us to do the right thing. There is no point keeping him for this far, for keeping him too long. I don't think he is a major threat. There are other threats that we've dealt with, and that there are other more dangerous people that you are negotiating with. Why is it difficult to also negotiate and find a way out of the Nnamdi Kanu case? Somebody somewhere wants to deal with him. It's a personal thing and not a national thing.
Okay, all right. So thank you very much. Now, before we come back to the studio, I'd like to go back to Comrade Ojekere, because he said something that I would like for us to interrogate. Comrade Ojekere, you said something like that no president is willing to take responsibility for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Two presidents now, Muhammadu Buhari and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that they are scared to take responsibility for his release because of what might happen in that region if he is released. Now, I'd like for you to tell us how much of ethnic politics has gone into his incarceration. I ask that in light of the fact that, according to what the other guests said, you are negotiating with people that have caused more damage, more harm than whatever Nnamdi Kanu did in some parts of the country, yet you find it convenient. You are not taking responsibility for all of that, but you don't want to take responsibility for the problem in the Southeast simply because you will be the one to have released Nnamdi Kanu. How much of ethnic politics has gone into all of this? Like the other speaker too said, that he thinks that it is something that is personal, and that is what is still keeping Nnamdi Kanu in detention. Can you help us talk about all of that? I'd like for you to, between what you said and what the other speaker said. Comrade Ojekere, the question is for you as a matter of fact.
The reasons why Peter Obi is so popular is because he's been the first Igbo man that have broken the jinx of having a national followership of the kind of magnitude that he commands, which was going to be a healing point to the bifurcation in our national politics. That opportunity is, absolutely commendable. Now, presidents upon presidents have phobia for the Southeast. The Southeast themselves have not also helped matters because they have refused to push themselves into mainstream politics, which is why I think that the Ohanese now, rightly or wrongly or pretentiously or genuinely, are trying to support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, the Southeast have not pushed themselves too much into the mainstream Nigerian policy. They've always acted as if there's element of Biafraism in their attitude to Nigeria. So the phobia remains with people from other regions to keep the Southeast in check. And Nnamdi Kanu having exposed his ideology of an unpretentious Biafran, they think that the only way to do that, to curtail that ideology, is to keep him in prison. But that also doesn't answer all of your question, because as Solomon, sorry if I'm mistaken, Yusuf, referred to, you are negotiating with other people. You are negotiating with people from the north. Toji, for instance, who is a known terrorist and a sworn enemy of the state. You see that. In fact, I saw video clips the other day where we're beginning to honor terrorists on state functions, in state functions. So it's a political thing. It's an ethnic thing. The two people have to meet themselves halfway. The Biafrans have to come out to prove beyond every reasonable doubt that they want to be part of Nigeria. And Nigeria must open the door to allow Biafra to do that. And that's why, the enigma around Obi has been able to prove that Nigerians, the generality of Nigerians, no longer care about ethnicity or tribes. It is the status quo who want to maintain a hold over the Nigerian people that whip up these ethnic sentiments and use it as a cudgel to beat some people to place. So Nnamdi Kanu should be dealt with like a Nigerian, and negotiation should happen with the Biafran states and leaders of the Biafra states that, upon such similar condition or upon such conditions, Nnamdi Kanu will be released. Just the same way you are negotiating with the other ones who are not even talking about, well, they will tell you that the difference is that those ones are just terrorists. But the intention of the terrorists is to Islamize the entire north and then further Islamize Nigeria. So it's also an ideology, a very dangerous one, that has political motives and intentions. So it's just one and the same thing as far as I'm concerned. We must agree to stay together as Nigerians. We must face these matters frontally. We must discuss that we will be together and then deal with all our fears and phobias that we have against each other as members of different ethnic groups. And then we are going to produce a great Nigeria.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Comrade, for your submission. Let's bring it to the studio now. Barrister Asim, let's get your opinion on this. Comrade Ojekere was of the opinion that the Igbos have not acted like they want to be part of Nigeria. They must show. And now the question is, do we see other tribes showing, that they must be part of Nigeria? Amalgamation happened in 1940, and we have Nigeria as a nation, as the case may be, and all that. Now, do we really need to, or does the Igbos need to show that they want to be here for them to enjoy the dividends of a nation that they contribute to?
I don't think any as we call it, ethnic nationality or group in Nigeria need to show interest to belong or be part of the nation called Nigeria. That's my opinion.
No, sorry, Barrister. I'm sorry. Don't you even think, going by what Mr. Ojekere said, that the Igbo man has demonstrated that willingness to be part of Nigeria?
Okay.
More than every other.
That is conversely put.
Yes.
Well, that is for me neither here nor there. I must be very, frank.
Okay.
I am an Edo man.
Okay.
Though I'm not a popular, figure in Nigeria, but I demonstrate, more patriotism of being a Nigerian, as the case may be. You understand? So the yardstick on which he measured that, I cannot really say. Okay. He has a reason. But myself, I know that all I have done in my own little way, even though I'm not recognized, is this. People come to me from diverse backgrounds, religious backgrounds. In my chambers, I don't care where you are from. I have Hausas, I have Yorubas, I have Igbos on my list of clients who are in detention that I'm fighting for. I fought for some of them. One of the youngest people I released, from detention in River State, is from Imo State. I never knew him. I don't even know where he comes from. It was that day that I got to know that he is even from Imo State, as the case may be. That's me, a Nigerian. So I have demonstrated, more patriotism, zeal, enthusiasm, becoming part of Nigeria. That these people at the top, that you hear their name. So that's relative.
We're talking about Igbo nation. Is there? I want us to talk about demonstrating that you want to be part of this country. There is practically no community in this country that you go to, you will not find an Igbo.
The reason is commerce and economic reasons. So you understand? I'm saying, I'm coming. See, we have Lebanese here. We have Arabs in Nigeria.
Okay.
They are here not because they want to demonstrate to the Nigerians, but because of economic problems. Why they are here. One of the motivating factors. We have to be very open. We understand the point now. It's because of economic reasons. That is the primus. That in my own opinion, that is the reason that you crisscross. If you go to United States of America, you're going to see Igbos, Yorubas, and us. Like in London now, for instance. Are you telling me now that the population of Yorubas in London, they feel more like the London or UK people because they are there because of the economic gains and whatever the gains that they're going to get. That's the first motivating factor. So when you say Igbos are all over the place, I agree with you. But what are they doing there? Are they going there to sing song? Then we're going there to do business.
Is there any other person going another
No,
place?
I was going to say, there are also settlements.
Oh, so when they go there, is it their business?
It's business, that's what I'm saying. That's the
So what kind of demonstration should we look at?
Good. Now, it's the kind of demonstration I'm talking about. Is a demonstration like P2B is doing. P2B is not campaigning because he wants to do commerce and business. He's campaigning because he wants to be a leader of a great Nigeria of tomorrow. A Nigeria that where everybody will be proud of. So he's not doing that because of that primordial, first interest of business to go and, make some money. I must be very frank. This is my own objective take, opinion as the case may be. So now let me tell you, Nnamdi Kanu's situation, for instance. I am not an Igbo man, but every forum I've been to, I've been to, I have campaigned, I have spoken that Nnamdi Kanu be released. Years back, I remember that if I send some of my video clips to you, you're going to see where I've been agitating for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Not because it's an Igbo man, but because of the fact that the procedure for which a Nigerian citizen, was brought to trial was faulty under the rule of law. And the main problem that people don't want to talk about in Nigeria today is that if you don't ask that section 2 of the 1999 Constitution, act from that Constitution, we are going to be having situations of this nature in our hands, where a government can just wake up and just say the man wants to divide Nigeria, and they go after you, they arrest you. They tried that with Sunday Igboho, as case may be. But thank God, he was able to, get himself out of the hook. That of Nnamdi Kanu was this. What did Buhari and his people, why did they hear the argument on? It was on section 2, whether rightly or wrongly, that he is preaching division of Nigeria. Then secondly, that he was insulting the then president. He made the matter personal. And he was not kept there. Nigeria had to spend millions of naira, if not dollars, to go and kidnap. I'm sorry, but that is the word I have to use. Open and close. To go and abduct Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya down to Nigeria. Spending so enormous amount of money to even get foreign forces to help them get Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya to Nigeria. I don't know whether I was blindfolded. The same Buhari did the same thing to Umaru Diko when he felt that he wanted to get Umaru Diko and get at him by all means. He had to sponsor some agents, some mercenaries to go and abduct Umaru Diko and put him in a crate and brought him to Nigeria. So what kind of a president was that man? That is number one. Number two is this. The judicial system has not helped the case of Nnamdi Kanu. The Kenya Supreme Court recently voided the abduction of Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya to Nigeria. And the same manner Nnamdi Kanu was abducted. I don't know whether they are playing the script of Turkey, because Turkey Prime Minister visited Buhari that time. Whether they are playing the script of Turkey, I don't know. The way they took Abdallah Öcalan from the same Kenya to Turkey. And he is the one who is still in detention till today. The same way they are doing to Nnamdi Kanu, as the case may be. So they have to release, in my own opinion, Nnamdi Kanu, if not through legal means, through political means. That is the only way I feel this can be resolved.
All right, then. Thank you very much.